Good. Welcome, everybody, to Midweek Encouragement. Thank you for joining us again right here with First Church of God. And we hope that sometime you can just step in and meet us and join us. We'd love to talk to you and visit with you and let you see that God loves you no matter what. Hey, it's said that we only get one chance to make a first impression. And some of those first impressions are kind of hard to shake off. Over time, people might see a change in us, and we hope that that gives them a change of opinion. But also remember, opinions are like armpits. Everybody's got at least two, and they both can stink. The only opinion that I think really matters is what God thinks about us. And he loves us unconditionally. Throughout the Bible, there are stories. Some of those stories are very true stories. I believe that the Moses seeing the burning bush was true, and Noah and the children of Israel leaving Egypt. The story of Ruth, the story of Esther, and so many others throughout the Old Testament. They are true stories, and yet there are other stories that are true, but they're parallels, and they're there for a reason, and their reason is to teach us something. I think everything in the Bible is there to teach us something. There's another part of the Bible, and a lot of it is the teaching of Jesus, and he uses what is called a parable. A parable is a made-up story with a very powerful point, and I feel that the parables of Jesus, there is often somebody in there that is a character that represents God, and there's somebody else that represents us. And sometimes it's just something there that represents us, and we're supposed to figure out what God is trying to teach us. Sometimes it's somebody there is Jesus, like in this parable of the Good Shepherd. Jesus is the shepherd, and we are the sheep. But he wants us to take that parable, and he wants us to apply it to our own life. Parables are stories that have a truth in them. And all of the Bible, throughout all the Bible, there's other analogies to help us think. I'm reminded of Psalms 23, verse 4, when it speaks about, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And I'm comforted because there are low times in my life. I'm not taking up residency there. I'm going through the valley. The valley is a shadow. It's a shadow. There's no power in shadows because shadows are powerless, and they may frighten us, but they are powerless. They are simply something that is blocking the light. And I think of the valleys, I think of the low parts when I'm riding a roller coaster. I like roller coasters, and I hope to get to ride some maybe this summer. But you go speeding down this hill into a low point, and the gravity is pushing you into the seat. And then it takes you up this high hill, and you slow down, only to start going down, and you put your hands in the air, saying that I have no fear as I go. I don't put my hands in the air. I hold on. You feel this feeling as you're going up or at certain places that you might even come out of the chair. Then you get pressed back down into the seat. And the great thing about valleys is valleys are where things grow. You don't see a lot of trees on mountaintops, but you see life in the valley where the air is thicker and it helps it to grow. The valley of life is a place to grow because the water stays there. And we don't just grow taller, we grow stronger because our roots start to take a deeper root into the ground and grab the soil of life, drawing out the life that feeds us to keep us going. And if we're going to make it, then we need to make sure that the soil is watered and is fed by the word and the manifest presence of Jesus Christ. In Matthew 5, Jesus gives this parable about light, and let's look at it for a minute. He says in Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 14, he says, "You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a blanket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house." When Jesus shared this, he was giving what we call the Sermon on the Mount. And I can imagine him pointing off to this hill where there was a city that the people could see because it was daylight at the time he was talking. And it made sense to them because when night came, they could see the lights. Somebody had a light in the window, some kind of a lamp, but they could see it from far away because light travels great distances. Light travels great distances. Look at the stars. The light of the sun travels a greater distance than anything. And I understand that during World War II, there were these blackout curtains that were used to keep light on the inside. They would cover the windows or tearing the windows. Made it permanent blackout status. And so during the 40s and 50s, large cities would practice these blackout air raid drills so that if an attack happened, the city could not be seen at dark and the enemy bombers wouldn't know where the target exactly was. But how does that relate to us today? How does this parable speak to you and me in this day and age? Glad you asked. So let's get honest and real with ourselves for a moment. When people think about you, what do you believe comes to mind? We sometimes say, well, I don't care what anybody else thinks, but I think it does matter. Do they see you as one of the seven dwarfs with Snow Whites, or someone, oh, here comes Grumpy, or here comes Doc, he's a know-it-all? Or do they see someone that is kind, generous, compassionate? Do they remember the kindness that you showed them by something that happened to them in the past? Do they remember how you showed love when they were more like a porcupine? Or do they remember you being the porcupine and would complain, or the type of person that would complain if your ice cream was cold? Paul referred to Timothy as one who genuinely cared about the welfare of others. You know, my thing about shopping carts, I see them as opportunities to share kindness with a large group of people that I will never meet. While others see it, oh, that's somebody else's job. Me, I see it as an opportunity to show kindness and protection for your car, my car, and helping somebody else out. What makes us most like the city on the hill is when we practice being present with others. There are times we're going to feel like we are in the room, but we're not part of the conversation. As I often say, bright lights don't need spotlights. So if you feel like you are present, but you are not in the conversation, take the spotlight and aim it at someone else. Start a conversation with someone else that is only about them, never bringing the spotlight back on yourself. And if it starts to swing in your direction, say thank you, and then grab the handle and turn it in the other direction. The city on the hill isn't just about using our words to share Jesus, but it's our actions as well. And this is being a real friend, not a deal friend. One person said charisma is being more interested in others than you are in yourself. And if you're trying to make a deal, that's just a distraction. Real friends are use-less friends, and deal friends, they're use-full friends. Real friends don't take advantage of you, they invest in you. And when people see us, I hope what they see is not our ability, but our availability. I may not have all the answers, but I have an ear to hear. Our light on the city, on a hill, is our loyalty, our kindness, our integrity, our joy, our compassion. It's a simple question with perhaps a very uncomfortable answer. Jesus invites us to be one who gives evidence of God's light. We're the ones who, with our lives, our actions, our words, and even our demeanor, are supposed to show signs of God's goodness to all those around us. If someone were to write a parable of you, what would they think of? The bad news is your past has been in your hands, and the good news is your future is also in your hands. It isn't too late to make a new impression of kindness, love, joy, peace, and compassion. What light are you reflecting? I heard about a homeless shelter that after a meal, everybody had to go and sit in this church service and listen to a message about Jesus. There was an altar call at the end, and the people were encouraged to accept Jesus and become like Jesus. One guy is at the altar, and you can hear him praying, and the minister goes up to him, and he hears him praying. He says, God, make me like Bob, make me like Bob. And the leader says, don't you mean make me more like Jesus? And the man says, I don't know Jesus, but if it is anything like Bob, I want to be like him. So I think we need to ask Jesus to help us be the light in the areas that we spend time in. Maybe it's the store, the office, work, house, restaurant, even behind the wheel. Wherever we go, we need to be a light for Jesus. And that's the message of encouragement that I want to give you today. Bye-bye.